Behind the innocent smiles of our childhood lies a darker truth. These sweet nursery rhymes we sang without a care were never meant for children at all. Beneath their playful melodies hide tales of plague, murder, betrayal, and war. Tonight we pull back the curtain and reveal the shocking hidden meanings behind 20 of the most famous nursery rhymes ever written. You won't look at them the same way again. Ring-a-ring-a-roses is often treated as a cheerful circle game, but the darker reading claims it echoes fear of plague. A ring of roses was said to describe the rash. A pocket full of posies was meant to hide the smell of sickness and death. Sneezing marked the spread of disease, and we all fall down became the final collapse. Historians argue the rhyme appeared much later, so the plague link is doubtful. But the reason the theory survives is clear. It turns a child's game into a memory of panic, infection, and mass death, hidden inside a harmless pattern of movement and song. Oranges and lemons begins with the voices of London church bells, each line tied to a real church and a real part of the city. Then the rhyme turns dark. Here comes a candle to light you to bed is often read as the last light given to the condemned before execution. The chopper that follows is the blade itself. What begins as a map of London sound becomes a walk toward punishment. In that reading, the bells are not only bells. They are a countdown. The rhyme survives because it makes the city feel alive and beautiful at first, then suddenly cruel, as though ordinary streets could guide a person straight toward death. London Bridge is falling down sounds playful. But the darker meaning comes from the real history of collapse, fire, attack, and rebuilding around one of the most important crossings in England. The bridge failed again and again, damaged by flood, weakened by age, and threatened by war. The lines about building it up with wood and clay feel desperate, as if each repair is only another temporary answer. In the darker reading, the rhyme is not about a game at all. It is about a city trying to hold together something vital and repeatedly failing. The bridge becomes a symbol of instability, where every repair carries the fear that the next collapse is already coming. Rock-a-bye, baby, rock-a-bye. Baby sounds like a lullaby, but the image at its center is not comforting. A cradle is high in a tree. The wind blows. The branch breaks. The baby falls. One origin story links it to cradleboards seen in the Americas, gently moving in the air. But in darker retellings, that motion becomes danger. The cradle is no longer safe. It is suspended above disaster. That is why the rhyme lingers. It places helplessness at the center of something meant to soothe. Instead of protection, it offers fragility. The darker meaning is simple and powerful. Even in sleep, even in childhood, safety can give way without warning, and the fall comes suddenly. Three blind mice is often linked to the reign of Queen Mary, a period marked by religious persecution and fear. In the darker interpretation, the mice represent Protestant bishops targeted under her rule. Their blindness becomes a symbol of punishment, ruin, and helplessness. The farmer's wife is read as Mary herself, pursuing those who oppose her authority. What makes the rhyme disturbing is the way it reduces violence into a quick, memorable chant. The image is almost absurd on the surface, yet the interpretation beneath it is severe. In that reading, the rhyme is not nonsense. It is a miniature lesson in power, where resistance is hunted down, mutilated, and turned into something easy for later generations to repeat. Mary, Mary, quite contrary is often connected to Queen Mary and the brutal religious divisions of her reign. In the dark reading, the garden is not a place of flowers and peace, but a metaphor for control, punishment, and death arranged in neat order. The silver bells and cockle shells have been interpreted as instruments of torture or symbols of forced authority. The pretty maids all in a row become victims, lined up beneath a ruler who appears calm while enforcing terror. That is what gives the rhyme its lasting power. It hides violence inside a polite structure. The words sound neat and tidy, but the meaning attached to them is about persecution dressed up as order. Baba black sheep sounds harmless, but the darker meaning turns it into a rhyme about exploitation. It is often linked to the old wool tax, where the crown and the church took the largest share, while the worker kept very little. In that reading, the 3 bags full are not abundance for everyone. They are a record of what is taken and what remains. The sheep becomes a symbol of labor stripped of reward. The rhyme survives because it makes inequality sound simple, even normal. That is the darkness in it. A child can sing it without hearing the history, while underneath lies the idea of a system where power claims the profit and the producer is left with almost nothing. Humpty Dumpty. Humpty Dumpty is remembered as an egg now, but the darker historical reading says it was once a cannon perched on a wall during war. When the wall was struck, the cannon fell, and all the king's men could not lift it back into place. In that version, the rhyme is about military defeat, collapse, and the moment damage becomes irreversible. Nothing can be repaired because the loss has already happened. That is why the image stays strong. It is final. The fall is not comic. It is ruin. The nursery version softens it into absurdity, but the darker meaning gives it weight. What falls from height does not always rise again, no matter how much power gathers below. Goosey, goosey, gander, goosey, goosey, gander, carries one of the sharpest dark readings of all. Beneath the nonsense lies a period when Catholic priests were hunted, hidden, and punished. The old man upstairs, saying prayers he should not say, becomes a secret priest discovered inside a house. The act of throwing him down the stairs turns the rhyme into a scene of violent religious persecution. What makes it disturbing is the setting. This is not a battlefield or prison. It's a home. Private space is invaded, and prayer itself becomes dangerous. The rhyme survives because it compresses a whole world of suspicion into a few lines. In that darker reading, even the upstairs room is not safe from authority. Georgie Porgy is often tied to Prince George, later King George IV, and his reputation for seduction, vanity, and retreat from consequence. In the darker reading, the rhyme is about a powerful man who pursues women for pleasure, then withdraws when pressure or judgment appears. Kissed the girls and made them cry becomes less playful and more cruel. It suggests charm without care, intimacy without responsibility, and power used carelessly. The line about running away when the boys came out to play gives the whole thing a final edge of cowardice. The rhyme survives because it turns social scandal into something sharp and memorable. Under the childish rhythm sits a small portrait of privilege without conscience. Little Jack Horner is often linked to the English Reformation and the seizure of church property. In the darker version, Jack is no innocent child by the fire. He is a man trusted to carry documents hidden in a pie, and he steals from them for himself. The plum is not a treat. It is a piece of wealth or land taken during a time of upheaval. What makes the rhyme dark is the way corruption is made to sound clever. He pulls out the plum, praises himself, and keeps the reward. There is no guilt, only satisfaction. That is why the rhyme lasts. It turns theft during a moment of national rupture into something small enough to sing. Hey, diddle, diddle, hey. Diddle, diddle sounds like pure nonsense, yet its darker interpretation gives each strange image a hidden role. The cat with the fiddle has been linked to a priest and the music of forbidden worship. The cow jumping over the moon has been read as escape, crossing borders or defying authority under cover of absurdity. In that reading, the rhyme becomes coded language, playful on the surface and secret underneath. That is what makes it unsettling. It cannot be pinned down completely, and that uncertainty helps it endure. The darkness lies not in open violence, but in concealment. The rhyme dances away from clear meaning, as if it were designed to say something dangerous without ever admitting it aloud. It's raining, it's pouring, it's raining, it's pouring is dark because it is so blunt. There is no fantasy, no disguise, and no rescue. An old man drinks too much, falls, strikes his head, and never rises properly again. In some darker folk readings, he dies in the gutter, reduced to a cautionary ending rather than a person. The rain makes the whole thing feel colder, as if the world does not pause for his suffering. That is why the rhyme works. It is ordinary and cruel at the same time. It suggests that ruin does not always arrive through grand tragedy. Sometimes it comes through weakness, habit, and one final mistake, leaving only a short, merciless line to remember it by. Sing a song of sixpence, sing a song of sixpence begins like a rhyme of wealth and comfort, with a pocket full of rye and a king in his counting house. Then comes the famous image of blackbirds baked in a pie. In the darker reading, this reflects cruel spectacle at court where surprise mattered more than the suffering used to create it. The pie becomes a stage prop, and living things are turned into entertainment for the powerful. That is what gives the rhyme its unease. Its world is rich, polished, and casual about cruelty. The darkness is not chaos. It is performance. Beneath the tidy rhythm sits the idea that privilege can transform pain into amusement and call the result a delightful surprise. Old King Cole is one of the less violent rhymes, yet even here the darker version gives the image a different weight. He is remembered as merry, surrounded by music, drink, and comfort, possibly echoing an old legendary ruler whose identity was preserved through celebration rather than history. The darkness comes from contrast. He is fixed in endless pleasure while the world that remembered him vanished long ago. Pipes, fiddlers, and laughter remain. But the real man is gone, replaced by a softened shadow. In a documentary like this, that is the darker lesson. Memory can hollow out the past. A ruler becomes a children's character, and whatever pain or conflict belonged to his age disappears behind the sound of a cheerful tune. Little Boy Blue. Little Boy Blue sounds gentle, but the darker meaning is about neglect and consequence. A shepherd falls asleep when he is supposed to be watching the flock. In some grim readings, wolves or thieves reach the animals while he sleeps, and the damage cannot be undone. What matters is not laziness alone, but the cost of failing in a role that protects others. The horn is silent when it should sound. The sheep and cows are left exposed. That is why the rhymes survive. It turns a quiet rural image into a lesson about responsibility collapsing at the worst possible moment. The scene is calm, but beneath it is the fear that one lapse is enough to invite irreversible loss. Jack Be Nimble. Jack Be Nimble is darker than it first appears because it is built around risk. In the old game behind the rhyme, children jumped over a candlestick flame, testing speed, balance, and nerve. One wrong move meant burns, panic, or injury. The cheerfulness of the line hides the presence of fire at the center of play. That is what gives it its edge. The rhyme celebrates agility, but it does so with real danger close at hand. In a darker reading, it reflects a world where even games could wound, and bravery was measured by how closely a child could move to harm without touching it. The rhythm is quick, but the flame remains the true focus. Simple Simon is often dismissed as a harmless joke, but its darker reading is about humiliation. Simon is marked as foolish from the start, then placed in a scene where he cannot participate because he has nothing to offer. The pie man does not merely refuse him. The rhyme preserves his inadequacy as entertainment. That is what gives it its sting. It turns exclusion into a joke and keeps repeating it. In a darker historical sense, it reflects the cruelty of village life, where mockery could define a person more permanently than kindness. The rhyme survives because it is easy to remember, but what it remembers is social failure, performed in public and reduced to something others are meant to laugh at. Pat a cake, Pat. A cake sounds playful today, but its older meaning is tied to work, payment, and ownership. Bakers marked loaves by hand, so the right bread went to the right buyer, and the right money changed hands. In the darker reading, the rhyme is not about childish fun at all, but about labor, transaction, and the pressure of everyday survival. Mark it with a letter for me becomes a demand to identify, account for, and deliver correctly. Beneath the rhythm is the working world of ovens, heat, and people who could not afford mistakes. That is why it lasts. A nursery rhyme now carries the memory of trade and effort, hidden inside a pattern that sounds much softer than the life behind it. This little piggy is usually treated as harmless toe play, but even here the darker reading makes the rhyme more grounded and uneasy. It comes from farm life, where animals meant food, money, and survival. One pig goes to market, another stays home, another eats well, and the last cries all the way home. In the darker interpretation, that final cry is not just playful sound. It hints at fear, separation, and the fate waiting beyond the comfort of home. The rhyme survives because it turns the structure of rural life into something intimate and memorable. Beneath the tickling and repetition is a tiny map of use, value, and vulnerability, ending not in peace but in a long cry. So there you have it. Those innocent little rhymes we all grew up singing actually carried some surprisingly dark secrets. From political scandals to plagues and even royal executions, what seemed like pure children's entertainment was often a clever way to pass on hidden messages. Makes you wonder what else we've been singing without ever knowing the truth behind it. Thanks for watching.